With ABC News from Ngunnawal Country here in Canberra. Let's go straight to New South Wales, and we're standing by to take you to Government House in Sydney, where Dominic Perrottet is due to be sworn in as the New South Wales 46th Premier, and Stuart Ayres is set to be his deputy. And of course this came after the news last week that Gladys Berejiklian was resigning not only from the role as Premier but also from the Assembly and her seat of Willoughby more broadly. And this was just an hour or so after the news came to hand that the Independent Commission Against Corruption was investigating Mrs Berejiklian and that there would be hearings coming up in the weeks ahead. We saw that meeting this morning of the party room that ended in a 39-5 vote. And Mr Stokes, who got the 5 votes, was saying that he didn't want this to be decided in the background by factional warlords. He wanted this to be a true vote of all members of the Assembly, or the parliamentary wing at least. And you can see Stuart Ayres and Brad Hazzard, the Health Minister there, waiting for this swearing in, where they're going to be, we understand, sworn in by the Governor, Margaret Beasley, there in Government House. And of course this has all been quite hastily pulled together, given the situation has been changing quite rapidly. And in addition to this, of course, we're going to see a vote tomorrow taking place to determine who is the leader of the Nationals Party, because to add to this situation over the last couple of days, John Barilaro holds the seat of Monero that wraps around Queanbeyan and just outside of the ACT, had announced that he was stepping down and talked about the impact that being an elected member had had on his family, and also, troublingly, there's some of the racist attacks and things that have been said about him. Well, he's announced that he's also stepping down, bowing out of politics, says he won't be back to politics, in fact, and that's now left a void not just for his seat, but also for the leadership within the Nationals Party. And of course, whoever wins their leadership in that vote tomorrow will also win and become the Deputy Premier of the state. So we understand that there's also going to be one portfolio arena that's left unfilled, and that's of course after Andrew Constance also announced that he was resigning from his state seat in order to contest the federal seat of Gilmore at the next federal election. And his portfolios at this stage aren't going to be filled in a permanent way. We might see one of the other ministers of cabinet picking up those portfolio arrangements just until we get all of the details of exactly what is happening. We're just going to take you now because the situation seems to be changing there inside Government House.
Ladies and gentlemen, Their Excellency the Governor of New South Wales, the Honourable Margaret Beasley. Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated.
Wujuri Gamarua, Yanka Bana, Gamarada, Gadiganagara. Welcome to Government House this afternoon in the language of the Gadigal, on whose beautiful land we stand. And I pay my respects to the Gadigal people, to their elders past, present and emerging. Very warm welcome this afternoon to Government House, to all of you. It's a very important occasion this afternoon. As you know, my background is from the law, as there are many lawyers amongst us here this afternoon. And a swearing in on any occasion is a propitious occasion. But the swearing in of a new Premier, of new ministers, is in itself very significant for our state as we see our state continue with the work that it's been doing over the last 2 years in particular with the pandemic. Can I say, both personally and on behalf of the people of this state in my position as Governor, thank you. Thank you for the service that you have given under the leadership of the Premier, former Premier, who has now resigned, Gladys Berejiklian. It has been a significant time for our state, and the then Premier and you as her ministers served well and hard and long, and we thank you for that. And today, can I also say, both personally and in my position as Governor, congratulations for taking on the responsibilities that you are now about to take on. It will be a continuation of that hard and long and difficult service, but it is service to the state of New South Wales. And in anticipation, I thank you for that. Official Secretary.
Should it please Your Excellency, each person today to be sworn will make an oath of allegiance or the pledge of loyalty, an oath as an executive councillor, and an oath of the office of a minister. Each will be called before you in turn, Your Excellency, to make those commitments accordingly. Should it please Your Excellency, I now call on Dominic Francis Perrottet to be sworn as Premier of New South Wales.
I, Dominic Francis Perrottet, swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II, her heirs and successors, according to law. So help me God. I, Dominic Francis Perrottet, being appointed as a member of the Executive Council of New South Wales, do swear that I will perform the functions and duties of an Executive Councillor faithfully to the best of my ability, and, when required to do so, freely give my counsel and advice to the Governor or officer administering the Government of New South Wales for the time being for the good management of the public affairs of New South Wales, and that I will not directly or indirectly reveal matters debated in the Council and committed to my secrecy, but that I will, in all things, be a true and faithful counsellor, so help me God. I, Dominic Francis Perrottet, do swear that I will perform the functions and duties of Premier of New South Wales faithfully and to the best of my ability, so help me God.
And Dominic Perrottet just signing those documents there, officially making him the Premier of New South Wales. We understand the youngest in history at 39, the father of 6. Spoken quite a bit today already about family values and about balancing those roles. And you can see there those documents being co-signed by Her Excellency Governor Margaret Beazley, who began with an acknowledgement to the Gadigal people and also...
Congratulations.
Congratulations from the Governor, Margaret Beasley, there to round out that official swearing-in ceremony as Dominic Perrottet becomes the new Premier of New South Wales. And this, of course, comes after a week of quite some uncertainty in the New South Wales Assembly there. We will bring you updates across this afternoon. We are expecting in the minutes to follow that Stuart Ayres will be sworn in as the Deputy Leader of the Liberal Party there in New South Wales and also take on a number of portfolios. And Matt Keane, who was seen by some as the kingmaker of this arrangement for Dominic Perrottet to become Premier, well, he'll be sworn in as the Treasurer, taking on that key portfolio which Dominic Perrottet himself held. As I mentioned, we'll bring you the latest across this afternoon here on